Welcome to Bear's Tech Talk and Do It Yourself. Today we will be taking an old obsolete computer and repurposing it into a home server. Over the course of this video I will go over several use case scenarios to help you make an informed decision if having a home server is something that may be beneficial to you. The first thing to consider when repurposing an older or obsolete computer is to confirm that the computer will support the server operating system. The computer being used for the server build did not meet the required specifications for the server operating system, as it had a 32-bit Pentium 4 processor and did not have the required memory. However, in checking the motherboard specifications, it did support 4-bit processor, so I ended up purchasing a 64-bit processor off eBay, as well as upgrading the memory, bringing the total cost for this server build well below $100. As you can see, I'm removing all the components from this case that was included with this computer. Even with some custom modifications, heat was a major issue, so I've moved the components over to a different case that was a lot easier to maintain and regulate the heat for this server. My Windows computer got hit with a ransomware virus. It was estimated that there were over 500 million ransomware attacks in 2021. Even major companies such as Gigabyte and various other organizations were affected from the increase in ransomware attack. Windows is one of the most common operating systems that hackers and virus makers target. Although no operating system is 100% secure, running your server on an alternate platform will help safeguard your system. Here are the more popular setups for a home server, or to back up important files from multiple devices or computers. To safeguard your important files, you can set it up as a file server. And also one of the most popular setups for home use is as a media server, where you can have your multiple devices, computers, etc. Connecting for streaming movies or TV shows, etc. A few things to keep in mind, especially if you don't want to do any custom modifications to your case, would be to ensure, number one, first determine how many hard drives you're installing. Ensure that you have enough mounting space for the number of drives, that you also have enough mounting spaces to provide the proper cooling required. Of course, having intake and exhaust fan mounts will be pretty crucial for running a home server. As we are now nearing the end of disassembling the old system for our server build, without further ado, let's get started on today's server build. I hope you enjoy. As you can see, my hard drive mounting cage has become damaged in storage. So I'm going ahead and applying Gorilla Glue. This glue does require at least 24 hours to fully bond and secure. So please ensure, if you're doing any type of similar repairs, do not rush it. Ensure that everything is secure before proceeding with your installation. So I'm now applying clamps to the drive cage to secure it, to allow proper adhesion during the curing and bonding process. I ended up swapping the clamps the opposite direction for drying to allow it a more secure bonding. A few recommendations. When you're dealing with an older system, I would definitely clean off the old thermal paste and reapply new thermal paste on your CPU. I did this when I upgraded my CPU to a 64-bit. Another recommendation is, prior to mounting the motherboard inside the case, would be to make all your hard connections, such as connections that may be obstructed by like your CPU cooler, etc., prior to mounting the board into the case. This will make the process a lot easier for installation. Prior to mounting your motherboard, ensure that you have all the standoffs in the correct place to prevent any damage to your motherboard while mounting.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. Our brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
As you can see, I'm doing the hardest to access connections first. I'm also having to do some custom cable routing due to the length of the cables, as well as the location of the devices that are being connected. These will be replaced with better cables down the road. your video card or GPU, you do not require anything special. You can even run this in headless mode once your OS is fully installed. This video card uses two Molex power connections for its power supply. In this stage, the front side fans are too far away from the fan headers, so I'm using some fan extension cables and doing my routing and cable management for the front mounted fans. Don't take things for granted. I changed the routing for the SATA and power cables a couple times. Even though I'd fired this up from my previous tower, I had to troubleshoot 7 HDDs. This included 5 SATA connections on the motherboard, 2 connections on the SATA expansion card, which 2 of the 4 ports did not work, 7 SATA power connections, and power splitters. In the end, it turned out there is one pin out of a power splitter that had come loose that needed to be reseated into the Molex connector. That resolved the issue with the two drives not being recognized. The TrueNas ISO is a hybrid ISO image file. You will not be able to install using programs such as Rufus. There may be some that work. Balana Etcher is one program that will properly image your USB drive for an installation drive off USB. I will include links to all the required software for this installation within the description. Alright, so now we're setting up the BIOS to boot from USB for the installation media, as well as setting up our main boot drive as a secondary device for installation of TrueNas. Although I don't have the required minimum memory requirements, I will be upgrading the memory once I put the server into operation. And this stage is where you will be setting your main boot drive. If you have previously installed it, it will give you an option whether to create a fresh install or upgrading your original install. Now on this stage, it will ask you to either boot via BIOS or UEFI. Depending on your motherboard, will be based on this option. If your motherboard does not work on UEFI, or your installation freezes or does not load, then I'd recommend using the BIOS option. Now the installation will take some time, so sit back, relax. At this stage, the installation process will be fully automated. No user input will be required. You will get a prompt once installation is complete to reboot your system. So after the installation has completed, you will see a IP address within the DOS menu. Make sure you record that information, as you will need that on your other computer in order to set up your HDDs. Once you're at this stage, you will want to enter in the IP address into a browser window, log in using the username of root and whatever password you set up, and then you can go and start configuring your HDDs. There's a help page with some information if you want to look at it to determine your setup. As well, you may want to take a look at the encryption information to determine if you want the encryption enabled or disabled. You can also specify how many drives you want to make as part of your pool or redev. You can split it up, either adding all drives, or you can make multiple configurations, such as putting 3 or 4 drives on one and 3 or 4 drives on the second one. The choice is up to you. Now, the choice of which type of service to set up depends on the amount of redundancy you want and your storage space. You can go up to, with my setup, I can go up to a RAID Z3, but of course, based on what you set up, it will affect your redundancy and how much space you have available. If you do set up encryption, you'll also have an option to download the encryption key in case you ever run into issues. I'd recommend backing up your encryption key to a safe place. If you would like me to go over more of the TrueNas setup and the different types of servers, please leave in the comments what you would like to see in the next video. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.